If you're from Moorhigh and you get sick, fall on your knees and pray you die quick. Welcome to Eye of the Sufferer.
Oh.
The other ones are A New Prescription for Terror, which is not great. The Doctor is Out of His Mind.
Of his mind.
And Sorry,
Wow.
the Doctor is insane.
That's the best one. That should be on everything.
I think that's the one that got used for most of them, but I couldn't pass up the rhyming sick and quick one. This is episode 223 of I Hope You Suffer. My name is Nathan.
I'm Kit.
And I'm Katie.
I can't believe we blew past the 1/3 of the way to 666 anniversary and just didn't even mention it.
Yeah.
We fucked up.
Well, it's because neither of you were on that episode.
Oh.
That was
Yeah,
the
that's probably
Gore
why.
episode that I recorded with Dylan, but I assumed was going to be episode 221. So it doesn't even say the episode that it was 222.
Well, we had some continuity errors on this podcast.
There's also an episode that one of the Christmas gift episodes that ended up being a separate episode that doesn't have a number. So really, this is 224. That's all fucked up.
I hope Cinema Sins doesn't review us.
Our numbering is basically like the continuity of the Star Wars universe.
Except less dog shit.
Debatable. I should have just started numbering these just randomly. So first episode was 1, the second episode could have been 37.
Why not?
We are talking about 1992's Dr. Giggles. I feel like a movie that Kit and I talked about doing probably pretty early on and just never did.
Yeah.
Because this movie rocks. We decided to pick something cool for our 4-year anniversary episode, as we tend to do each year. Something that still sort of fits the theme of the podcast, but something that's usually pretty fun, like Jaws the Revenge and shit. Dr. Giggles, a banger. I have a German Blu-ray of this where nothing on it I can read. So you just gotta have to guess what everything is, but it's got a pretty sick lenticular cover. And I don't know if there's an American Blu-ray for this.
There's not.
I was gonna say, if there is, it wasn't when I bought it. Whenever I first discovered Diabolic DVD, I think the German Blu-ray for it had just come out, and I was like, oh shit, I gotta get this. And it was of course, because it was a German Blu-ray, 30 something, almost $40 probably. But I was like, that's worth it. And then I got it, and I was like, oh, this is legit German. All of the subtitles are in German. There's no English subtitles. All of the menu options are in German, so I can't read any of them.
Perfect.
Just kind of click around and hope the movie plays.
They're playing.
I also have an Elvira Mistress of the Dark one. That's one of those ones that come in the big sort of book style that I got, and again can't. That one actually Dr. Giggles doesn't really have any bonus features except for trailers. But the Elvira one's got a bunch of them, but I don't know what any of it says, so you just kind of have to click on shit.
Just click around.
I don't know, maybe this is a commentary, maybe this is a featurette, I don't know.
Choose your own adventure.
But yeah, so this is... Dr. Giggles is a movie that Kit and I had obviously both seen before, and I think this was the first time watch for Katie.
Correct.
Hell yeah. Obviously, Kit and I are fans.
Katie, if I log into Letterboxd right now and see you gave it 1 star, I'm gonna be upset.
I honestly was surprised how high Katie rated it, so...
2 stars?
3. I mean, this is the thing. So I got I think I said it like around when we did the Leprechaun uh, franchise that was probably like my favorite slasher like franchise, which probably isn't even true. I would say Child's Play at this point probably is. I feel like Child's Play has a much better like track record because all of those movies are extremely watchable. But like I think as far as like a single movie in like the slasher franchise, this honestly might be at least a top 3 if not my favorite. Because it's like I had texted Katie sometime this morning and I was like, this movie is supposed to be goofy, but I find it incredibly unnerving and like kind of the same way I do with like The Dentist, where like just the simple like doctor dentist doing shit to you like already just scary enough.
Yeah.
And then
I want to know who finds this movie goofy.
I mean, it was written and it's supposed to be like it feels like it feels very like kind of Tales from the Crypt to me.
Yeah.
A little bit, but like
Fair.
just I guess maybe not as tongue-in-cheek a little bit. Like watching it this time, like in my mind it was always one of those movies that's like, oh yeah, it's like a fun goofy like slasher movie, and then like I watched it this time and I was like, oh, this is a little more like straightforward and kind of bleak than I remember it, like especially once you get past like the dumbass like teenagers and shit at like the first half.
You get into the child bursting out of his
Oh my
dead
god.
mother's stomach.
Like
I was like, Jesus Christ, I forgot about this.
reading about how this is supposed to be like intentionally funny, I was like, where? Like the teenagers
Yeah.
are all suck and are like dumb kind of teenager stereotypes or whatever, but like the second half of this is pretty fucking horrifying.
Yeah. I mean, I think I definitely expected this movie to be cringier. Like, I guess he's a doctor, right? He's not a dentist. Maybe if it was a dentist like situation, it would have been worse for me, but I expected to be like squeamish, and that didn't really happen because there's a lot of like, I mean, it's like early 90s, right? So there's not really like a ton of gore. Like there is some, but it's like a lot of them are like cutaways or they're like really clean kills where it's just like, you know, someone gets stabbed in like the base of their skull with like a scalpel, which okay, disgusting, but like visually it's like pretty clean, right? And so there's a lot of that. And I think the only thing that like it was fine. I like I said, I gave it a 3. I didn't really know what to expect. Like I had the image of like the Dr. Giggles guy, like the cover of the movie, like ingrained in my head just from like seeing it and being like, this, I'm not gonna watch this. This has got to be like gross and terrible. And like it was pretty fine. Like it was totally fine. My thing that kind of like made some of the scenes maybe not work as well for me was the music was like very theatrical, if that makes sense. Like I don't know how to explain it other than that I feel like the music just like did not fit for me, and there was a lot of scenes where the music like made it feel overly dramatic, and I don't know if maybe they were doing that on purpose, if you know, if we're thinking that it's supposed to be like goofy or funny or something, but like it just didn't work for me. And also, yeah, I hated all the kids, like, of course. But
I don't know if I've ever paid attention to the music in this movie.
it kind of sounded more to me like music you would hear in a musical. Like it was just like very, very dramatic for what was happening, and I was like just not into it. But
I'm gonna have to pay attention next time I like watch it.
Yeah.
I'm
sure that the mixing was different on, you know, I watched it on Vudu. The subtitles were messed up, of course. So probably the music was louder than maybe intended. So
Subtitles.
I know, I should have. But I will say I don't ever want to hear the giggling again. Because
all I could
not-
think of
did
watching
not care
this
for it.
is how much I wish he was still alive, because I would like them to do a Dark Knight Returns live action movie with him as the Joker. Him
Yeah.
as just old
I
man
had to-
Joker.
I have to say I do really like him as like the quote unquote villain or whatever. I thought he's perfect. His like way of just like how he never has any like expression on his face, and his voice is like so calm and level, but then he's just like fucking doing that giggle. I can't even do it. It's like I can't do it. Was extremely like unnerving. But then you pair it with all of the doctor puns, which, as you know, I am a fan of puns. So it was just like, I guess in that way, it is a little bit of a ridiculous movie, but like the acting and the stuff that he does with like all of the doctor like contraptions is not goofy at all.
I just want to know who
I
like designed all of the fucking like medical equipment he brings out at, like towards the end.
I couldn't even guess what any of those things were for.
The one that he just like jams into the dude's face. I'm like, this has no practical fucking.
No. I will admit, I think that maybe it lost either a star or half a star. Is for some reason I was expecting there to be like sort of a twist ending, and there's not one. Like the ending was just like everything's okay, and I was like, I don't love that.
Yeah,
but other than
the
that,
twist
like,
is that he addresses the camera as he dies. Perfect choice.
Well, okay, yeah.
I mean, I give this a 4-star, but it's also like a nostalgia sort of rating as well, because I remember this is one of those ones that like anytime Kit and I talk about like Blockbuster and like shit and like the movie covers of Blockbuster, like this is one that always stands out to me, and I remember renting it then, and like it was one of those things I saw probably once as like a 13-year-old, and then not again until a couple years ago when I got the Blu-ray.
I feel like if I had seen this when I was younger, I absolutely would have found it really terrifying. So
yeah, there's a reason I refuse to go to the doctor, even though I'm probably wildly unhealthy.
I know. Well, I don't know. There's this,
also money.
I think that the thing that makes like any of like to me, well, okay, we get kind of crazy towards the end of some of these like slasher theories, right? But the thing about slashers to me is that usually the situation that the people find themselves in is like a real situation. And so the idea of like a dentist or like a doctor trying to harm you is like scary enough, because like going to the doctor for just like regular normal stuff is so scary. And then you hear all of these cases where there are doctors who on purpose, I mean, obviously Dr. Giggles is not a real doctor, right? Like, he's not.
He got his doctorate. Don't downplay the hard work that he put in.
Yeah, he put in a lot of hard work as getting reborn out of his mom's dead body.
Yeah.
Well, he was just reborn as an actual doctor.
Yeah.
But like the
works.
idea that like they are just people. So like even not trying to hurt you, they can hurt you. And so then the idea that like they are actively trying to hurt you is like so scary. So I don't know. I don't know. I think the puns really leveled it out for me, though. If there were no puns in it, I think this would have been kind of scarier. But the puns are like, and it's not that he delivers them in a goofy way either, but like, I don't know. It just like evens it out a little bit.
Kit, do you remember when you saw this for the first time? Was this like a recent watch?
Yeah, it was the start of 2020.
Okay. I couldn't remember if this is one of the ones that you saw like from Blockbuster days, or if it was like The Dentist 2, where you're like, fuck this.
I'd seen the cover before, because I always used to think like, oh, Sub-Zero is in a movie. It's like, oh wait, no, that's a doctor.
Sub-Zero's a doctor.
Yeah.
But it was just
Dr. Zero.
not ever readily available on anything whenever I wanted to watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's wild how like hard this movie has been to come across for all of these. Like the fact that there's not a American Blu-ray is so wild to me.
Very weird.
Because like it would sell unless there's some kind of rights issue. Like there's no way people wouldn't buy it. You know, it's very very strange. I don't understand.
America no longer allows movies about doctors.
Yeah,
That's why there's only the German
fair.
one.
medical is hard enough. We don't need to.
Fair, yeah.
All right, let's dive into it.
Well, before we start, I have a
Soda
soda
talk.
talk. Soda talk, soda talk. I'm just gonna keep doing that until someone makes a sound. Even if it is a sound of me just doing that, but like I don't have to do it. So I have the Mountain Dew Voodoo. I surprisingly have never tried one of these before because 72 grams of sugar. Jeez.
Yeah, it's Mountain Dew.
I have never been a Mountain Dew fan. Like I like Baja Blast, obviously, but I've never. This is like the first year that I've been like trying new Mountain Dew flavors, except for like Game Fuel, Halo specifically back in the day. But like now I'm trying all of them, so I had to. I didn't realize that Voodoo was a mystery flavor, despite the fact that it literally says mystery flavor on the front. So
Does it taste like snot?
I don't know how. I'm
It's
about
like the
to try
jelly
it.
beans.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, ew, I've had, ooh, no thank you. I've had, so I don't know what any of the other flavors have been in the past. So I'm going to try this one. And apparently this is the 4th year they're doing it.
I think Shane said it tasted like gummy worms, and I was like, that's a very
I've
specific...
seen gummy worms, and I've seen sweet tart. So it smells like Mountain Dew. Oh. Huh. I'm gonna say it tastes like a raspberry lifesaver. You know what? The aftertaste, I do get sweet tarts. I don't really get gummy bears. I also don't really eat gummy bears, so I'm gonna say lifesaver still. It's good. I like it. It's like very fruity.
My problem is like, especially around here, I always just see like the 12 packs, and I'm like, I'm not buying a 12 pack of this because I'll drink one and be like, I don't want this anymore.
It kind of reminds me of like if you had raspberry Fresca. If anyone knows what Fresca is.
I do. That sounds terrible to me.
I like it. I don't know that I will. Like a couple drinks was kind of enough for me, though. You know, honestly. But if you like Mountain Dew, I feel like this is pretty good. Ugh. Yeah, I do get sweet tarts. Okay.
Like this is pretty good. Whoa.
Okay. Now that I'm refreshed from the voodoo, Dr. Giggles starts with a quote that says, "For extreme illnesses, extreme treatments are the most fitting." Don't agree with that, to be honest with you, going in here. The movie starts with a heart monitor, like the readout of a heart monitor beeping into the title, Dr. Giggles. And then the credits are over like CG blood cells and
No, that was
flesh
real.
being inside your body. I didn't like
They
it.
put a camera inside someone's bloodstream.
They're just unhealthy. That's why it looks so bad.
Right. They drink. It was a Mountain Dew drinker.
What they don't tell you is they put it inside of a Mortal Kombat character's bloodstream.
I will say I feel like the cinematography in this movie is pretty good. Like the way that they set up a bunch of the shots, I thought was good. Like it's a real movie, if that makes sense. Like it was like it's goofy, obviously, but like it's obvious to me that like actual thought went behind it.
Yeah, you could tell that they were trying to actually make a movie as opposed to just like, I don't know,
Let's do doctor joke.
Edge
like,
of the Axe looking like absolute garbage and but still having the best title fucking artwork of all time.
So basically then we see a also, again, I don't know that I just feel like maybe we've already kind of said some gross stuff, but maybe trigger warning if you are easily susceptible to feeling unwell around people describing doctors and like, I don't know, maybe just don't listen to this while you're driving or something, because immediately we see a scalpel cut into a heart, and then the camera goes from inside the body, like looking at the heart, out into the open, like through the incision wound, and I was like, okay, here we go. Woo! Like it's like the Magic School Bus. So it basically, we see a doctor who is doing a surgery, and it's like one of those old school viewing rooms where like he's doing a surgery and there's people above like looking down watching the surgery,
like the Seinfeld episode where they dropped the junior mint in the guy.
Yes, exactly. Thanks. Well, it's been maybe we haven't looked for a Seinfeld connection, but I feel like it's been a really long time.
Oh yeah, I never look at IMDb for like. People always use Letterboxd, and Letterboxd doesn't have Seinfeld, so.
Stupid.
I feel like Larry Drake is probably on Seinfeld at some point.
He's gotta have been. It's so strange about like what TV shows are on there and what aren't. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah, I did like look up his like, you know, what he's been in, and he's been in a lot more than I thought, because obviously you and I were texting with like the first thing that comes to mind is the Tales from the Crypt. So
oh yeah, he was the Santa in that first episode of Tales from the Crypt.
In my favorite episode of Tales from the Crypt. So I already, you know, maybe that's why when I saw the cover I was like, I'm absolutely not watching this, because he plays essentially the same kind of character where he's like an escaped person who wants to murder, and so they do such a good job of making him look like very scary, but like normal. But anyways, I
don't know if normal's the right definition.
Well, I meant like. Anyway, okay, so he, okay, so he's like talking about doctor stuff, and the patient dies, obviously, because like we saw him cut the guy's heart open, so I don't know. And then I could not remember what this thing was called, so I called it a head saw. You know, it's like the little handheld saw that they use to like cut people's heads open. Yeah, I think it's just like a bone
saw, like Macho Man Randy Savage and Spider-Man.
Yeah. And he goes, "Let's open this baby up," and like turns on the head saw.
I hope all doctors say that to me before they cut me open with some horrifying device.
Honestly. Yeah. Let's open this puppy up. So there's some staff who were walking through the halls, and they're kind of talking about a patient who has gotten loose. This is a part that is very weird to me. They're talking about how the patient who has gotten loose clearly has schizophrenia. I feel like at the time, schizophrenia was just a blanket term that they used for anybody who was like unstable in any way, because there's like literally nothing in this movie that leads you to believe that he's schizophrenic at all. But also, so they're saying that he's schizophrenic, so he thinks he's a doctor. But also they don't know his identity, which is confusing to me.
He's John Giggles.
Seems not great to have a patient in your hospital if you don't know their identity.
Yeah, I'm like,
he's not actually checked in there. Like, he just showed up and wanted to stay.
I guess so, because okay, we'll get into it later.
He's squatting. He's squatting at the
so-
mental institute.
Why not? I guess I don't know. No, it sounds terrible. But you guessed it. The person who has cut open the dude in the beginning is actually our missing patient, the Dr. Giggles. And they walk into the operating room to find that Dr. Giggles is like gone, but they find the dead patient. I also thought it was really strange, and it makes sense once you realize like he's Dr. Giggles. But at first I was like, why is that guy just wearing like a suit to his operation? That seems really strange, but that's why. He's just some random guy.
He's fancy.
Yeah. I demand to wear my most uncomfortable suit for this.
Yeah, he's like
heart
one of those
surgery.
weirdos that like says that like we take flying for granted now, and we should dress up in uncomfortable clothes like we used to.
Anytime I see somebody at the airport who's wearing like a business suit or even or anything like that, I'm like, you are unhinged. Something is wrong with you. So then it cuts to a receptionist who is like, or a nurse who is like at her desk, and someone comes up behind her and starts like massaging, like putting his hands on her, and she's just like, Dr. Phillips, this isn't the time. But she notices that there's some blood, and when she stands up, she turns around, and Dr. Giggles is just standing there holding someone's arm. Pretty
Perfect.
Great. As
Such
soon
a
as I
perfect
saw that,
image.
I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. Here we go. It also turns out that all of the people who were observing his surgery were actually patients that he's freed, and now they are, doing some pretty stereotypical things that you would see people do in this kind of movie, laughing and licking things. Which,
Yeah, not great.
I don't know how I feel about that kind of thing anymore, but honestly, like, if you look at any of the media from like this era and later and a little earlier, that's kind of like how they just portrayed people.
I mean, if you look
at
media now, they don't tend to portray like mentally challenged people great, so.
No, but it's 1992, so. So yeah, and then the staff is just like, oh no, this is not great.
This is the scene that specifically, like, this whole beginning is, like, where I'm like, he would have been, like, this just seems like an Arkham Asylum, like, Joker kind of, like, breakout beginning to a movie. And I feel like he would be a very good, like, old man Joker.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that. I wasn't thinking that at all, but I was calling him Mr. G instead of, Mr. J the whole time. So I thought that was pretty funny. Dr. T, what happened? Okay, so there's a guy who is driving out of the gates. There's like security gates around the building, and he's going to swipe his key card, and Dr. Giggles just grabs his arm and then cuts his throat open with a scalpel, and then uses his card and his car to escape the facility. So he's out.
One of the things in this movie that drives me crazy every time I see it is how that key card is entirely too small for, like, the thing he puts it in. Like, it's blatantly not the card that works in that machine. And I don't know why it drives me crazy.
It looks like one of those, like, paper tickets you get to park in a parking garage.
Yeah, it looks
and
like
they
a
were
Metro
like, hey,
card
I have
that
one
they
of
just
these. Here you go.
put into something. It's very weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
Do better,
so now
Dr.
it cuts
Giggles.
to what? That's the aspect we need you to do better of.
That's why this is a
Have a
4-star
real
instead of a
security card.
5-star.
Yeah.
Details.
Okay, so now we cut to a high school, I assume, even though everyone is 30. School's out for the summer, and we meet our main character, whose name is Jen, and her boyfriend Max, and a bunch of like other teenagers, and essentially all they are doing is like talking and alluding to the fact that they're just gonna like do it, which fair, I guess. They're all meeting up later at a place called Breeders' Hill, and there's a bunch of jokes about that. Jen is being a little, like, not really into it, and Max is like, what's wrong? And she's like, nothing, see you later. But she immediately goes to she's like getting a physical, and we find out that she's got some sort of heart problem, where she's getting a heart monitor to basically monitor her heart to see if, like, maybe she needs to get surgery or something. And the doctor says, so yeah, go ahead and wear this, and we'll see in a week, like, what happens, but don't do anything strenuous, like drink or anything. And I was like, well, that seems like a bad situation to be in when there's a murderer on the loose, to, like, not be able to do anything strenuous.
Sort of doesn't seem like a great situation from the start.
No, but she does okay. She's fine.
Yeah,
so now
she's fine.
She's fine. Okay, so now we see this old abandoned, like, Victorian house that Dr. Giggles breaks into, and he's in the basement basically, like, chopping down a wall. And behind the wall there is a old, like, doctor's office. There's, like, an old practice in the back, and the door says Dr. Evan Rendell. I was like, Jen, of course, is walking home in the woods past the old broken down house, like, by herself. And I was like, why is she walking deep through the woods? And then it turns out it was literally just, like, at the end of her cul-de-sac. So she's, like, she lives, like, right there. She also gets scared by some lady who has a dog. The dog's name is Erica. I don't know the lady's name. So she gets home and ignores what I thought was her mom to go talk to her dad, but it turns out that the lady is just her dad's girlfriend who she doesn't really get along with or something, and we kind of find out something vague happened to the mom to where she is not around anymore. And basically he's like the cool dad. He's like, cool heart monitor, look, great color, awesome, red, like that stuff.
Hey, I really like your pacemaker. What?
Literally. And then he's like, she eats an apple, and he's like, you're going to spoil dinner. And she's like, you know what they say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And I was like, oh, here we go. So Dr. Giggles, meanwhile, is, like, looking around the house, and he looks at a picture of a guy who turns out it's his dad. He has a, like, sepia tone flashback of himself as a child doing surgery on a teddy bear.
Normal.
I know he's only, like, 7, but he's not doing a very good job, in my opinion, because it pans over to all of the other bears that he's cut up and sewn back together, and you can, like, clearly see their stomach fluff still open, and I give him a D- for doctor stuff. But the flashback is, like, the dad coming home and being like, hey, slugger, or whatever, and then he gets up and he's like, I want to be a doctor just like you. And it's, like, very weird scene. Then he comes back to reality and is talking to the picture of his dad about how the town murdered him and it's sick and he's gonna cure the town. And I was like, all right, I'm intrigued. Like, I want to know what happened. Then, like, at the house, I put quote-unquote teens pull up outside, because they're very obviously not teens. That blonde guy's got to be 35.
I'm pretty sure one of them is Dougie Doug, who I feel like was probably 30 when this was made. Because it's, like, it's not far off from when he's in Eight-Legged Freaks, which I feel like he was also seemed very old in. Or not old, but, like, 30s or something.
An adult human.
Yeah.
An adult human. So it's two couples that pull up, and basically, I looked it up. One of them sings a nursery rhyme that they have made up about Dr. Rendell, which, I mean, I know that they do this kind of, not frequently, but it's like, it's in Freddy, it's in Candyman, where in the lore of the movie or whatever, they have, like, the character has become, like, a part of actual legend, and then they have, like, a nursery rhyme around it. And I don't know why, but that detail is something that I love in movies. And so this is the nursery rhyme. The town has a doctor. His name's Rendell. Stay away from his house because he's the doctor from hell. He killed all his patients, every last one, and cut out their hearts purely for fun, which is not true. So if you're from Moorhigh and you get sick, fall on your knees and pray you die quick, which is the tagline. And so
too much to remember for a nursery rhyme.
I mean, I feel like it's not that much longer than like the Lizzie Borden song.
I mean, like 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you is
3, 4,
like
lock the door.
So much easier to remember than all of that shit you just said.
When I was in like 2nd grade, they made us memorize a nursery rhyme, and I still remember it to this day. And it was like kind of the same length. So I can't do math, but I remember a poem about a snowball from when I was in 2nd grade. So
no one uses math.
Well, one of those has come in handy a lot more recently than math.
Yeah, what was the last time you had to do any math?
Exactly.
Actually, so I'm gonna put a warning. I did not know this before I started crochet, but you actually have to do kind of a lot of math, and nobody told me that, and I didn't really realize it until after I had gotten into it, and I'm like.
I just like that you prefaced this with a warning as if it was going to be like a spoiler or something, and you were like...
No, I'm warning people who want to get into crochet.
Spoilers ahead.
Involved.
You have to use math for crochet.
You do, and why?
That's the big Shyamalan twist of crochet.
It was. Shocked me more than any Shyamalanian thing could have. That's for sure.
Shyamalanian. Weird.
I don't think I've watched one of his movies since The Village.
You should watch Old.
I don't know if his...
Old rocks in the fucking stupidest way possible.
I feel like I know all there is to know about it, but
it doesn't matter. You should still see it because it's so fucking dumb.
I think it's free now, so I might as well.
There's a rapper named Midsize Sedan because that's what M. Night Shyamalan thinks rappers' names are.
Incredible film. Old.
It's
okay,
so stupid.
It's perfect. Dr. Giggles' Old crossover.
Double feature.
We need it.
Dr. Giggles. Dr. Giggles could have fucking saved all these people.
Dr. Giggles on Old Island. Okay, so one of them sings the nursery rhyme to the kid, like them, as they're like inside looking around the house, and we find out that basically the doctor, like Dr. Giggles' dad, was stoned by the townspeople, and no one knows what happened to Evan, his son. He just disappeared. There's a rumor that so I will say, every single time that they brought up the fact that he disappeared, nobody knew where he was, and I was like, where is this going? It does pay off. It does pay off. Because, like, he's like, there's a rumor that he's hiding in the walls, and there's a secret passageway in there, and they start, like, looking for the secret passageway, and I was like, okay, this is, like, a really dumb part of the legend. Like, why are they harping on this so much? It pays off. So... there's, like I said, there's 2 couples. The 2 couples like break up, and one goes upstairs and one stays downstairs, and they're like just like looking around or whatever. And one of the girls is basically just like, "This sucks. I want to leave. Like, why are we here?" And then the other couple like locks them in the room so they're trapped in the house, and she's of course like really mad about it. Dr. Giggles, meanwhile, like while they're just exploring the house, Dr. Giggles is just like getting ready, like in an old-timey doctor-looking type outfit, with his pocket watch, and then he says, "The doctor is in." Great. The couple who is locked inside the house, like the other couple leaves, and it's just like, let's make out, as couples do, and they hear footsteps and they hear the giggling, and they think that it's just like the other friends like trying to mess with them or whatever. And again, I feel like it's understated because like his name is Dr. Giggles. Obviously he's giggling, but the sound that he's making is like pretty creepy, especially because he does it like he doesn't change like he doesn't make any expressions, but he can still do the giggle, and it's like very creepy.
It rules. It's so good.
Yeah. And so the guy is like, oh, what's that sound? I bet it's just Jason or whatever the fuck the guy's name is. I don't know what any of their names were. But he like is peeking out the door, and he pretends to get hurt, and the girl is like, oh, you stupid jackass or whatever. But then Dr. Giggles sticks a syringe in the keyhole and injects him with something. No, thank you. He like injects it into his like elbow, like right above his elbow, and I was like, oh, that's not great. And he immediately starts like choking and collapses, and then Dr. Giggles comes in, and it cuts away, but the lady with the dog Erica hears the girl screaming, and so she does what I would not do, and she goes up to the house and is like, hello, is there somebody in there? Hello. And she goes to like investigate, and she hears the giggling, and she sees Dr. Giggles' eye appear in the little peek hole thing, and she screams and runs, obviously. There's this like kind of pointless in my mind scene of everybody showing up at like the makeout area or whatever, and Jen and Max kind of like get in a little bit of an argument because she doesn't want to drink because she has not told him about her heart condition. And then the cops come and are like playing the song that's like, I don't even remember what the song was, but he makes kind of a big deal about it and makes everybody leave. And that's when they get the call that Erica's owner has called about like something suspicious happening at the house. So meanwhile, even though she has seen somebody in the house and she screams and runs away, it like cuts to her at home just like getting ready for bed. I would have gotten my car and driven away. There's no way I would just be going back to sleep. She lives right next door to the house where she heard screaming and saw an eyeball. So
yeah, it's not great.
Do better. So she is getting ready for bed. They zoom in on this red pill that she's supposed to be taking. Erica is outside barking. So she goes to let Erica in. And then when she comes back, the pill is blue. So
dun dun.
You know what that means.
Yeah.
She takes the pill.
But awesome this movie till like all of a sudden like Lawrence Fishburne shows up.
I think I would have loved it. I would have been like, what in the and then it's just like The Matrix. I would have been like, I must have been sleeping previously. So she gets in bed and she's just like complaining about the cops, which same. She's also reading Weekly World News. And the headline is something about like sightings of Elvis increase or something on the rise. And I was like, okay.
Sounds like Weekly World News.
He's out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of, especially right now, there are entirely too many Elvis things being greenlit because one movie did well.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised. I wasn't...
The idea of Sofia Coppola and Baz Luhrmann interpreting the same events is extremely funny.
Yeah. I don't know, like, some of these things happen sometimes where I'm just baffled all the time, where I'm just like, do we need like 4 Elvis biopics in the works at the same time kind of thing? Like,
no, we got the Baz one. We're done now.
Or like, if you're gonna do
need.
it, like, go outside of the box. Let fucking Tim Robinson direct an Elvis biopic, starring Tim Robinson as Elvis.
Oh no.
Like, at least let somebody weird do one instead of like all of these pretentious whatever
weird
directors. Like, Let somebody.
Let's get Nick Cage in there.
That's what I mean. You do one. Do
he
one.
could do Elvis.
Let like Baz Luhrmann do his big over the top one. Let Sofia Coppola do their probably arty down to earth whatever one, and then just go like way outside of the box and give it to somebody fucking weird.
Yeah, hear me out. Danzig.
Yes, I'm in. Danzig as Elvis.
Starring and directing.
I would love that.
I'm in.
The move, I think. Yeah.
That...
He does already have... He does kind of, in some ways, have an Elvis way about him.
Well, he did an entire album of Elvis covers. That was fucking terrible.
Did he really?
Yes.
I'll say we should do a bonus episode where we just make Katie listen to the Danzig Elvis cover album.
I am in.
I'm down. I am down.
It would have rocked if he had done that in like 92 or some shit.
Oh yeah, when he could still sing.
Yeah, instead of waiting 15 years
great.
past his prime to do it.
You know what is a great idea? An Elvis cover.
You know what would be sick now that I can't sing? Trying to sing songs that I need to be able to sing to do.
Great.
Danzig
Perfect.
always making good choices.
Yes, I can't wait. I've still not seen a Danzig movie, but I will listen to
You're going
an
to
Elvis.
if he ever fucking releases his vampire
horseback
shit.
thing. Yeah.
I don't know how that's
I've...
not released on something yet.
Bro, it's still in theaters. It's making a killing. It's like Top Gun.
Yeah. It's going to be like Jaws where it just plays in theaters for like a year straight.
Yeah. 100 years.
There's no way he's made money off that, by like off the like one weekend it played in some theaters.
No.
Just release it. I won't.
No.
I won't rent Nope for $20, but I'll rent the shit out of that for $20.
I love that. Okay. I'm not even sure how that happened, but suddenly Erica's mom starts choking and Dr. Giggles shows up. He begins to give her a physical, and I can't imagine so basically he is like doing that thing where he's just like, open your mouth and say ah, and like using a tongue depressor, but the shot is from inside her mouth, like as if you were at her her throat.
Best camera angle.
They built
looking out.
They built a fake mouth that the camera would fit into, and then Larry Drake had to hold an oversized tongue depressor for it.
Like for seconds of a shot, and it's amazing.
Pretty great.
And I can't. I was like, what is happening here? I was that shot alone, I feel like, is worth the movie, even though I just spoiled it. But
love movie magic.
Yeah, incredible. Then he has what I think is one of those things that they put in your ear that you like look in it and they're like looking at your ear. I'm not really sure what it is, but he jams it up her nose into her brain, which is
seems not great.
Essentially what
very normal
COVID
and
test
fine
feels like if you've been tested for COVID. It's essentially the same thing. No longer need to wonder what that feels like. Okay. Meanwhile, the cops, I call them old cop and young cop, investigate
that
the
is
house.
Their name.
Like, essentially, they show up, and old cop is like, fucking whatever her name is, called about the house again. So you get the idea that she calls a lot about things happening at the house, and at this point, old crusty cop doesn't believe her or feel like he needs to do his job at all, which, obviously. And so they go inside. Old cop is talking about how essentially the whole situation here is that Dr. Giggles' dad killed like 7 or 8 people because his wife had a heart condition and he was trying to like save her by figuring out on his own how to do a heart transplant, which seems not great. or something you should be trying to figure out on your own. I don't know what year this was supposed to be, but like, I assume people knew how to do heart transplants. I don't know. I don't know how old heart transplants are, but
I mean, working ones probably not too old, but you know, if you want to just do ones that didn't work, probably pretty old.
yeah. So he basically failed a bunch of times, I guess. Then he says that like that maybe the son Evan, who was 7 years old at the time, was helping the dad try and figure it out or whatever, and that the son disappeared and they never found him. Old cop doesn't want to do his job at all or go upstairs to check upstairs. And young cop is kind of like, okay, well, don't you smell that? Like, I smell rubbing alcohol upstairs, and is like trying to go upstairs and investigate where, you know, they would have found the 2 people that Dr. Giggles had already killed and like knew that there was a murderer on the loose. But instead he's like, nah, come on, we gotta go. And young cop finds a piece of ripped gown, like, you know, the patient gown that Dr. Giggles was wearing. He finds like a piece of it ripped off on the staircase, and is like, that's weird. But he leaves with old cop. Meanwhile, Jen has finally told Max about her heart stuff, and they're on the Ferris wheel, and he seems supportive. And then she's like, yeah, well, like, this whole thing is freaking me out because my mom went to the hospital for a routine operation and she died, and I never saw her again, and now I have nightmares and stuff. And he's just like, okay, that's like fine, like it's okay. And she's like, no, I'm selfish. When I need to be alone. And she runs off, and I was like, what? Then she goes home and drops her heart monitor into the fish tank.
Yeah, that's not good for those fish.
No, I'm not, and I'm like not really sure why this is happening, like why she's doing this. But Dr. Giggles shows up outside her house, and is, you know, presumably he's just like standing there with his little doctor briefcase, but he hears like the loud couple from earlier like pull up to the house and is like distracted by them. They go inside, and there's a little boy sitting there playing Dr. Mario, which I thought was very funny.
Kid's the best character in the movie.
Yeah. And then they go upstairs where the guy tells his girlfriend that he has stolen lingerie from his mom that he wants his girlfriend to wear for him. And I was like, I don't love that. That's kind of weird.
This dude's not great.
No, because then she's like, well, if you want me to wear this, you have to wear this. And she gives him a condom, which he, for some reason, goes into the bathroom and is like trying to put it on beforehand, and then like drops it into the toilet and is fishing it out of the toilet with a toothbrush, like originally planning on still using it, and then is like, she probably won't notice. Sir. Absolutely not.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. Somehow the grossest thing in the entire movie.
Yeah, because he like picks it up too and like shows it to the camera, and there's like toilet water spilling out of it, and I was like, this is just the worst. And a toothbrush, like who? I don't know. It's all bad. The girlfriend, like while he's doing all of this, is waiting for him, and she's cold. She goes out into the hall to like turn the thermostat down, and she's like, 65, wow. And I was like, 65 sounds pretty good to me. I like a cold house. So Dr. Giggles is there, of course, and basically does some like anytime he's on screen, I don't always write it down, but just know there's some kind of doctor pun going on that he says.
He's giggling.
And in this instance, giggling and also doctor pun. He has a very, very long thermometer, like a mercury thermometer, that is sharp on the end somehow for whatever reason, and he just like stabs it into her mouth. Like
how do you sharpen a thermometer?
I don't know. I was like, maybe it's an old meat thermometer, because you would need it to stab into meat, but I'm not human. I don't know. I was confused. But he like shoves it underneath her tongue into her, and that's gross. So this is where the guy decides that she probably won't notice that he's not wearing a condom, and this might be my favorite part. He's like saying some dumb shit about Victoria's Secret magazine or whatever, but he goes to the side of the bed and is like crawling up into the covers, and he just like goes under the covers and lifts it up, and it's just like Dr. Giggles laying there.
That's so good.
He just is like laying there under the covers, and I don't know why, but it made me laugh so hard. And he says, "I hope you have protection." But guess what? He doesn't. That's the whole thing.
Now
is that he doesn't have protection.
Now what?
He dies off yeah, right? Well, he dies. He dies off camera. It cuts to the little boy playing Dr. Mario, and there's a scream, and he's like, the little boy is like, "That's weird." Don't really care, though. Keeps playing his game. And then it does cut back to him dead in the bed with, I assume, his penis stabbed off.
Hopefully.
Okay. Meanwhile, Jen is at home. Not only did she throw her heart monitor in the fish tank, she's drinking wine. She's not supposed to be drinking at all. And she's looking at a photo album of, like, her mom and her dad and everything, and then she sees a prom picture or whatever of her and Max, and she's like, and so she gets up and leaves to go find him. Right as Dr. Giggles comes in the back door, the dad hears Dr. Giggles downstairs but thinks it's Jen coming home, so he's like, I'm going to go check on her. And he finds the heart monitor and the wine and is like, oh my God, like, Jen was here, I have to go find her, like, she's a sick kid, she's going through a hard time or whatever. I'm going to go look for her, and, like, leaves. And the girlfriend's, like, pissed off about it. Yeah. So the girlfriend is mad, and so she's going to eat a bunch of ice cream, of course. And then she goes upstairs, and Dr. Giggles is up there, and he ties her to a chair. And then he says a bunch of dumb stuff, like diet culture stuff, like, diet culture stuff. And then he puts what I assume is a stomach pump down her throat, and then just, like, turns it on high and leaves her there. So, use your imagination there, I guess. So, Max is, like, some kind of musician or something. So, he has gone to, like, the place where the club where he's playing music or whatever with two of the girls from school. And he's, like, trying to show this girl how to play the saxophone, but she's, like, making out with the saxophone piece and stuff. And he's just like, that's not how you do it, ha ha ha, or whatever. She, like, hits on him, and then they start making out, which is not great. Meanwhile, at Jen's house, Dr. Giggles has found her heart monitor and also a brochure that says, so you have a heart condition, or whatever. And he has a flashback of his mom having, like, died, and the dad is sitting there crying about it, and he cries until he eventually just starts laughing, and then both him and the kid are laughing, and I was like, that's not great.
That's just father-son bonding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having a great time.
Yeah. So his dad kind of obviously just, like, snaps. So Jen is at the fair looking for Max and runs into the girl who's, like, making out with him's friend, and she's like, I know where he is, and she, like, leads him over there. Jen sees that they are still just, like, laying on the floor making out, which is kind of weird, and she's basically just like, you suck. I don't remember what she said, but she is mad and walks away. She's outside the fair, like, I can't believe this happened, kind of, like, thing. And Dr. Giggles shows up and sees her, and it's just, like, watching her be sad and stuff. Then Jen sees her dad and, like, goes to hide from him by running into a funhouse. And the funhouse scene might be hard to explain, but visually it's pretty cool, I thought. So they go into a funhouse. Max also follows Jen, and Dr. Giggles is in there also. And there's like this weird kaleidoscope thing happening where like you essentially see everybody on the screen like 3 times. And it's like Max being like, sorry, and Jen being like, no, leave me alone. And then the girl he was making out with like making mouth noises, which I didn't care for. But she's like, no, go away, I don't want to see you again. And so like the girl's like, yay, because she like wants Max or whatever. And then also, you know, Dr. Giggles is there too, so whatever. So essentially, Jen is like goes through this door that's like a hidden door that you have to like press against and like spin through the wall or whatever. And then when the door swings back around, the girl who was making out with her boyfriend is like stuck to it. And she's got like a huge Band-Aid over her face, like a huge Band-Aid, like a dish towel size Band-Aid. And I guess she's been suffocated. It's kind of hard to tell by like what she looks like, but I think she's been suffocated.
Do you not have Band-Aids that size at home?
No, I don't.
Weird.
And she's dead, obviously. And Jen is freaked out, so she like backs up into Dr. Giggles, but it's actually just a mirror, and it's like his reflection. So when she sees him and backs up again, she backs up into actual Dr. Giggles. I don't know what he says to her, but she like freaks out and is scared and like
it's
falls
giggling
back.
Time.
Probably.
His classic catchphrase.
Yeah. And she falls through one of the mirrors, like shatters, and I was like, that's probably a liability. But she
probably a liability.
there's like glass everywhere, and she like screams and runs. She like busts out through an emergency exit, and then she falls down a hill. And Dr. Giggles like comes out and runs after her, and it's just like, you know, I don't even, you know, he's just like, calm down. She
chill out, bro.
Yeah. She hits him in the head with a rock, and then she runs into the street and gets hit by the cop car. Amazing. So they've taken her to, now we're at the police station. Max is there and is telling the cops about Dr. Giggles, and he's like, there was a doctor who did it. Like, I don't think he was actually a doctor. He was just dressed as a doctor, because apparently that doctor only has that town only has one doctor.
Yeah, most towns do.
That doctor only has one town. Yeah. So they...
I mean, that works too. That doctor only has one town.
Yeah, I guess so. And basically he's just like, I think that it was Rendell's son. He was chasing us and he like tried to kill us or whatever. But basically the old cop is just being like a crusty old cop, where he just like is like, yeah, okay, you kids were just drinking or whatever. And I'm like, I don't really know how you imagine how you have a beer and then think someone's chasing you. That's not, I don't know.
Makes sense to me.
Young cop is basically just like, I don't know, like something seems weird here. Like, why? What are you hiding from me? Like, stop being a crusty old man, essentially. And they kind of get in a fight. And this is when old cop is like, okay. He like takes this bottle of Moon Glow, I think it was called, out of his locker, and is like, I haven't opened this in 50 years. And so now there's a flashback. It's 1957. After Dr. Rendell...
so good.
After... I will say, nothing could have prepared me for the situation that is about to happen.
I've seen this movie before, and I forgot about this, and I was like, this is perfect. I
was shocked, to say the least. So basically what happened is that after Dr. Rendell, after the bodies were discovered, the town pulls Dr. Rendell out of the house and stones him to death. Sounds terrible. After that happens, they take all of the bodies, including Dr. Giggles' mom, who has died, back to the station. Everybody is like looking around for like the son, right? Because he's 7. And they leave old crusty cop who is just crusty cop at the time because he's not old yet. Leave him at the station. He's like so freaked out by what's happening that he starts drinking the moon glow. And he's sitting there and he starts hearing giggling. And he basically follows the giggling down to the morgue where he hears giggling from underneath the covers. He pulls the cover off one of the bodies. It is the doctor's wife's body. And then you start seeing... I was so baffled by this because... So you start seeing, like, hand imprints from inside her stomach. And then little 7-year-old Evan, Dr. Giggles, just cuts himself out of her stomach and just hops out. It's like, and just is like standing there laughing. But the way they show it is like, they show him start cutting himself out, and then it shows the cop like falling against the stairs, and you see the shadow of him coming out of her body, and it was startling. The reason and then the cop, of course, passes out because whom amongst us wouldn't? The reason I'm confused is because he was like, he came out of her stomach and then he stitched her back up, but like there wasn't stitches on her in the beginning, which I think was just like something that they overlooked.
No,
like she looked like a fully intact person.
The real question is, how was he breathing?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If
he grabbed her throat, was breathing through her mouth.
Ew. Okay. Wow. Well, that's why
it's like a reed when you're underwater.
Yeah.
You're trying to hide.
It's a snorkel.
Yeah. You just grab that throat reed.
Unfortunately, I sort of feel like that's probably fine. Like, I feel maybe like that would work. I don't know.
I think so. I'm gonna try it.
Okay, let me know. Report back. I'll send you some moon glow and then we'll figure it out. Gross. Either way, I don't know. It looks not bad either. Like, it's fine. There's like some parts in this movie that I feel like don't look the best just because 1992, but like it looked fine. I was believing it. He crawls out of her and he's like, oh jeez. Okay, so the cop is done telling the story. He comes back, and this is when he also repeats the nursery rhyme that I read earlier to young cop. And so basically, I'm also like not really sure why he told him the story. I guess because he was pretending like he didn't believe them, even though he knows for a fact that the son is alive, and that's how his dad smuggled him out. So I'm like, I don't know why you wouldn't just be forthcoming about that.
The thing I have a question about is, like, sure, he's drunk and freaked out. Why do you not immediately shoot the thing crawling out of a dead body?
True. Yeah, and I guess he did say, like, I didn't think they would believe me because I was, like, drinking or whatever. But I'm like, again, I feel like if you're hallucinating because you're just drinking alcohol, like, probably there's something else going on. Like, you're not just thinking you see a person climb out of another person. You know what I mean? Like, something else is going on there. Okay, so this is when the police, basically, old cop is like, okay, I believe you now. I'm going to go to Jen's house. You call to try and talk to the dad, and I'll go over there. So the police call and leave a message at the house saying that Jen is at the police station with the doctor because she's got to get an EKG. And Dr. Giggles is still at the house, and he hears the message, right? Then the dad comes home, and he... This might be my other favorite part because it's so stupid. He hears a message from the cop saying Jen's at the station. Then there's another message that says, hello, I'm your new doctor, and I'm standing behind you. And he's like, what the fuck is this? And Dr. Giggles is just, like, standing behind him.
Perfect.
Like, what the fuck? So stupid. Dr. Giggles has his head saw and saws him. and there's a knock at the door. It is Old Cop, and he comes in and he finds the dad's body. Dr. Giggles comes up behind him, and this is where he sticks a scalpel into like the back of his skull. Pretty gross. But thankfully, he does end up shooting Dr. Giggles before he dies.
In the wiener. R.I.P.
Yeah. Dr. Giggles giggles to show that he is in immense pain. The scene is...
Relatable.
Yeah. He is... He's frantic, and obviously he's, like, shook up because he just got shot, which I imagine is painful. His acting in this movie is just, like, really great. And I feel like this is, like, one of his standout scenes. So, Jen is, for some reason, at the police station, I think, but it's also the doctor's office. And she's getting an EKG to, check her heart. Max shows up at the station to talk to Young Cop, and then, meanwhile, Dr. Giggles operates on himself using mirrors on the ceiling to fix his bullet wound. And he is doing that thing where he is his own nurse, where he's like, scalpel, and then he, like, hands himself a scalpel. And he's like, tongs. I don't know what other medical instruments are, but he, like, does that, and it's pretty funny.
He also says, physician, heal thyself.
Yep. He showed up. So Young Cop then is like, okay, something's going on. He goes into the database and looks up active felony crime scenes or something, and sees that there's one for, I don't remember what it's called, but it's the name of, like, the facility where Dr. Giggles was. That also, a piece of the name is on the gown that he found at the house. So he confirms what we already know, which is that it is for sure Dr. Giggles. And this is another part where I'm a little confused because he says he like maths it out, and I have to trust his math because, like I said, I don't know math. But he's like, oh, this child was 7, so like he's been at the institute since he was 7 years old, and they like couldn't put together who he was. That seems stupid. But
checks out.
Whatever. I also want to know, like, what happened between the part where he, like, busted out of his mom and then, like, was just caught. I don't know.
What happened immediately after that? Did he just walk away? Just like, all right, well.
Like, I have to assume somebody saw a 7-year-old running around in his underwear, completely covered head to toe in blood, and was like, I'm going to do something about that. But I don't know. Okay. Yeah. Meanwhile, Jen, who's getting the EKG, the machine starts flatlining, and she's freaking out because, like, that, means your heart stopped. And the doctor comes in and is just like, okay, it's okay, don't worry, sorry, we have to, like, go in and operate, though. And then he straps her down, and then when the doctor turns back around, it's Dr. Giggles, and he cuts her chest open to expose her heart. I don't think that they know atomically where your heart is, because it was kind of like, it was kind of not the best heart I've seen. But then it turns...
Seen better hearts.
Jen has a stupid heart. It turns out it was just a nightmare, though, and the doctor is, like, looking at the readings, and he is just like, it's fine. Up until your nightmares, like, all your readings are fine. Like, I don't think we'll have to, like, do any kind of surgery. But then Dr. Giggles comes in and stabs him in the back, of course.
Naturally.
Yeah. The doctors fight a little bit back and forth with, like, doctor tools until Dr. Giggles, like, knocks over the real doctor and then wraps a blood pressure thing around his neck and then
this rocks so hard.
Like, pumps the little thing until it inflates so much that it suffocates him.
What a way to
and
go.
I was wondering, like, can you do that? Like, is there not a threshold where it stops?
I mean, it gets pretty tight on your arm. I feel like it would probably.
Yeah.
I think you could probably choke someone out with it. I don't know that it's gonna make all of the veins in their head pop out like that.
I don't know. Also, check that out. Let me know. Get back to me on that one. Dr. Giggles then injects Jen, but he, like, has a syringe and he inserts it, like, right in the side of her boob. And I was like, oh, no. That sounds so painful. And it knocks her out. Huh?
I said, yeah, no thank you.
Yeah, not great. And then he carries her back to his house. So maybe this wasn't all happening at the police station, because I'd really like to think that young cop, who kind of seems like he knows what he's doing, would have noticed.
Yeah, he's still a cop.
They just didn't really make it, well, true. They just didn't really make it seem, like, they didn't make it very clear if they were in the same building or not, but I guess it doesn't really matter. Because young cop goes to Jen's house to, I don't know, he hasn't heard from old cop either, so he goes there. And this is where he finds that Jen's dad is still alive, and Jen's dad is like, it was a doctor that did this. And then young cop is like, great, I was correct.
How crazy.
Jen wakes up on a gurney in Dr. Giggles' basement that is now really leaking water for some reason. It's a very leaky basement. Young cop goes to Dr. Giggles' house, and he kind of, like, looks around. You know, it kind of, like, does this thing where it, like, switches back and forth between Dr. Giggles, like, talking and prepping Jen for surgery, and young cop, like, looking for her, essentially. So he goes down to the basement. Dr. Giggles has a bucket of hearts that he is, like, trying to fit her with a new one. So he, like, takes a bucket out of heart, and it's just like, too small. And that one's too big. And this one's just right.
The one that's too big is huge.
Yeah. It's like what I imagine, like, a horse heart would be. It's very big. Which is, like, I know that he's killing people and he's problematic, but he's trying to help her, so it's kind of sweet in a way. So the young cop is, like, looking around, and he goes into what is the waiting room of the previous practice, and all of the people that Dr. Giggles has killed, their bodies are in there just, like, hanging out, and then young cop throws up. Same, I think, if I walked into a waiting room with dead bodies. Don't think I would adjust to that very well. Then Dr. Giggles rolls out this huge machine that I thought it was like a heart transplant machine, but I guess it's just like a defibrillator. It's like sparking and stuff. And he's like, basically he says, in order to give you a new heart, he's got to, like, stop her current heart. So he, like, shocks her with it, and she flatlines. Right as young cop comes in, and Dr. Giggles literally throws a heart at him and runs.
I don't want to, like, question Dr. Giggles, but it doesn't seem like good medical practice.
Well,
it's not very sanitary.
Especially if that was the heart he had picked out for her. He just threw it. It's going to have, like, lint on it and stuff.
Oh, no, I think lint might be the least of the problems with that.
Yeah, I sort of feel like if you just have them chilling in a bucket, they probably are not usable anymore anyway, but I don't actually know. I'm not a doctor. Young cop goes over to Jen, and I couldn't remember what this was called, so I said gives her the Heimlich, but for starting someone's heart. You know, when they, like, breathe into your mouth and then you, like, push down on their chest or whatever to, like, restart their heart. and saves her. She comes back to life. She's been dead for kind of a while.
It's
but
fine.
I think people. I'm trying to remember. I was like reading a thing about how long.
Yeah, like 6 minutes, right?
I was gonna say you have at least 4. I know, so she's probably fine. That was probably like only a minute or 2. And then, so Dr. Giggles has like ran, right? And he's like looking around for like weapons, I guess. And this also made me laugh. He goes, "Time to do what doctors do best." And then he gets a golf club out. And I was like, haha, doctor humor. Young cop goes to basically check if the coast is clear to try and get Jen out of the murder basement, and then Max shows up and helps her walk, essentially because she, was like dead a minute ago, and also her heart's not great, so I can't imagine she's doing very good at the moment.
Just walk it off.
She's trying. They go into the waiting room, and this is where Dr. Giggles shows up, and he hits Max, with the golf club. He fights with the cop for a while.
He bends the shit out of that golf club, hitting him with it.
That's a good swing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Jen is fumbling with the cop's gun on the floor, but she just kind of can't figure out. So Dr. Giggles takes it from her and tries to shoot Max, but Jen pushes Dr. Giggles, and so he misses. And then the young cop, kind of lures Dr. Giggles away from the kids. Meanwhile, Jen and Max try to leave the basement by walking up the stairs, but then the stairs collapse.
Of course.
Terrible. Meanwhile, Dr. Giggles is shooting at young cop. The defibrillator machine or whatever sparks and then catches the basement on fire. And it looked to me like young cop got caught on fire, but then he's okay. So I don't know. I guess he put the fire out. They keep fighting. Young cop gets some chains that he wraps around Dr. Giggles' neck and is choking him out. But Dr. Giggles has his little saw thing and saws his back, which I can't imagine feels very good.
Yeah.
Jen and Max are able to climb up some of the furniture down there to grab onto the top of the landing of the staircase or whatever. So Max pulls himself up, and then he's trying to pull Jen up, and of course she's dangling around. So Dr. Giggles shows up and grabs her ankle, but she's able to kick at him, and so he falls up against the wall, and Max is able to pull her up. Meanwhile, again, the basement is on fire, and there's a bunch of flammable oxygen tanks down there and shit, and so of course Max and Jen are limping their way out of the house, and they get outside right as the house explodes, and Dr. Giggles' doctor bag lands on the ground and is on fire. Back at the hospital, Jen obviously has to get the surgery because she's been.
I hope they save that heart.
She's been being strenuous, to say the least. They're in the process of hooking her up to the machines and stuff, and the prep nurse sees some blood underneath the door, and so she goes over and opens it and reveals that the entire staff in the hallway is dead, and she gets grabbed by a gross hand. Dr. Giggles walks in, completely charred outfit, and he's got his little bag. He comes in, his face is kind of gross, half of his face is kind of...
It's blistery.
It kind of read... Yeah, I was going to say it kind of read more pimple boily than I've been in a basement explosion, but, it is what it is. This is where he's got a bunch of doctor contraptions. I couldn't tell you what any of them did. One of them is literally
all so
just
wild.
One of them is just a spring-loaded thing with spikes on it that looks like the point of it. It's got like these two big things that jut out, so it's like the perfect size to fit around someone's head, and then spikes just shoot out, and so he uses that to kill the doctor that's in there. Jen, meanwhile, is like getting out of the bed. She's all fucked up though because she has been giving some anesthetic, and she's like, flopping around. She locks herself in a supply closet, but Dr. Giggles very easily comes in. Then I forget what she says, but she picks up some like antiseptic and throws it on the ground so like the whole ground is wet.
He just looks at her like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. And then she uses a defibrillator to electrocute the water. She like puts it down on the water so that bolts of electricity like zip over and electrocute him. She probably says something like, I don't know. She says something quippy. So he falls down on the ground.
I feel like it was
again,
something like the doctor is out or some shit. It's probably something stupid like that. I can't remember.
Something like that, yeah. And so he's like laying on the ground and she's like trying to tiptoe by him. And of course he grabs her again, but then she takes one of his contraptions. Oh, she says like, take 2 of these and call me in the morning.
Yeah,
and like
right.
Stabs him with his like contraptions. And then he said, is there a doctor in the house?
Banger.
And he
Perfect
dies. Then Jen wakes up after her heart transplant and she's fine. Dad comes in. Dad is also okay. Max comes in. Max is also okay. And he kisses her. And then the heart monitor beeps a bunch. The end. I definitely expected them to be like, oh, we had to, like, they had to. I expected a twist ending to be like, because like all of those doctors had been killed, they had to like rush the surgery and they had to like use Dr. Giggles' heart to like transplant it into her or something. But it was just like, no, everything's fine. The end. And I was like, okay.
Don't worry about it.
It's fine, I guess. Anyways, that's the end.
I need the sequel of what happened in between him crawling out of that body to the beginning of this movie.
I know, I want to know. Just a little kid running around.
We'll get that kid that played young Sheldon to play young Dr. Giggles.
Kinda, yeah.
This movie rocks. Everybody should go rent it on Vudu. Right now.
Yeah. I think it's worth a watch. Like, it's not the best thing I've ever seen, but it's pretty good.
Pretty sure this is the best thing you've ever seen.
Again, like I said, it's surprisingly not super gory. Even through all the things that I said, a lot of it is either cut away or like not a lot of blood. So if you're like weird about, like, I definitely expected to be really squeamish when it came to like the doctor's tools or whatever, but it's not bad. It's like, it's fine.
All right, news.
I didn't see a lot, but I did see that they're doing a new one-shot comic that is Batman Spawn. And it comes out December 13th, and they're essentially going to pull together the 2 previous crossover stories from them into like one collection that comes out like a month beforehand, and then they're going to do the new comics. And I only saw like the cover and some panels, but it looks pretty cool.
Also, I want to note for this episode that I found out that there was Dr. Giggles 2-issue comics that I need to find and read.
Well, I saw that before the credits it said like a Dark Horse film, which is obviously who put out the comic book. Dark Horse is like one of my favorite publishing companies because they, I feel like, take a lot of stuff that's like overseas stuff, like specifically Japanese stuff, and like they were like some of the first to be translating them into English. So like really, really early on, they did like some Vampire Hunter D, like translations that you couldn't get anywhere else. And I just feel like the stuff that they publish is like really niche, but like awesome.
They do a lot of like movie tie-in stuff.
Yeah.
Like I think they do a lot of like the Alien comic books and shit like that. I feel like they did some of the RoboCop ones, maybe.
Probably, yeah. I like them. There was a Nintendo Direct today where they announced a bunch of stuff. I don't care, but they did release the title for the new Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. It is going to be called Tears of the Kingdom, and it comes out May of next year.
Fucked up not calling it
They definitely
Breath of the Wilder. Breath of
They
the
definitely
Van Wilder.
pushed back the. They pushed back the direct because it was called Tears of the Kingdom, right? They pushed it back a day because of the Queen dying.
Oops. Maybe. When I first it's the
Oops,
the,
all dead
the,
Queen.
They had
That
to
is
change
bad
the whole
timing.
game because the whole Zelda game was
I
about
gonna
killing
say,
the Queen.
What if, yeah, what if they had to change the whole title? That'd be so funny. I just am, as I've said, I'm just like not a fan of the way I'm just not a fan of Breath of the Wild. And when I first saw the trailer, I knew that they had Breath of the Wild 2 in production. And when I saw the trailer, even though the graphics are like literally the same, in my mind, because they didn't call it Breath of the Wild 2, I thought this was like a separate game, and I got really excited. And then my friend was like, no, this is the sequel. And I was like, oh, well, I'm not excited anymore, but get it out of the way so we can have a normal Zelda game again.
Nah, fuck that.
I
Breath
hope.
of the Wild's so good.
All of my
Two
friends...
Breath, Two Wild.
Every Zelda game from now on
Yes.
better just be open world.
I don't mind it being open world because
You just ride a horse and hang out with dogs all the time and not do any of the actual stuff.
That's
but
what
you
I did in
could
Elden
ride-
Ring.
you could ride a horse previously.
Yeah, but you couldn't ride a cool horse.
What about hanging out with dogs?
In one of them you are a dog.
Well, I don't want to be a dog. I just want to hang out with dogs.
No.
I
Can't
Twilight
pet myself
Princess
as a dog.
is like my favorite. Yeah, you can. I see dogs do it all the time. He's technically a wolf, but oh no. I just realized why Twilight Princess is my favorite, because you get to be a wolf. It's all coming together now.
Yeah.
It just keeps reaffirming it.
Rob Roy.
I can't believe it.
Out here changing your life.
Robert Roy.
I'm confused. I'm confused about him. Anyways, that's not why I was even bringing up the Nintendo Direct. I know a lot of my friends will be happy about it, so you guys can enjoy it. It's fine. They are, a while ago, they ported a Fatal Frame game called, like, I can't remember what it was called, Water of the Black Maiden or something. I don't know. But that did so well that they're now porting a game that previously only came out in Japan called, it's Fatal Frame, Mask of the Lunar Eclipse, and it'll be coming out sometime next year for the Switch. And I'm excited because it's, like, the first time it's being released in America at all. And I love those games, so that's fun. The last thing that I saw was that Season 3 of Unsolved Mysteries is coming out October 18th. But they're doing this thing I hate where they're doing a quote-unquote 3-week event where basically they're just, like, releasing an episode a week for 3 weeks. And I'm like, I just, like, want it all
It's
at
just
once.
a TV show.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, if they brought back just the TV show as the way it like a TV show, I would be so excited. I feel like the reboot, and I think Nathan and I have talked about this before, the reboot is like hit or miss for me because some of it is like, it's just like kind of not what it
It's
was.
too modern, true crimey from like the episodes
Yeah.
I watched.
It's more like documentary style, I would say, than it is a serialized show. Like, that being said, they are still releasing like episodes of the Unsolved Mysteries podcast where it is like the show, except for like they break it up so it's like one segment, but they will do like, it'll be like a true crime thing, and then it'll be a paranormal thing or like a UFO thing or whatever, and then they do add the updates whenever there are updates. But so I don't know. I mean, I'll watch it, of course, but I don't like them. I don't want. I feel like the point of a streaming service is that like you can just stream it. I don't like when they make you wait. It makes me mad.
Oh, like the episode by episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it depends on what it is. Some stuff I'm like fine with, but I feel like something like that, yeah, I'm like, just drop it all.
Yeah.
They should drop Stranger Things all at once so I can stop hearing about it faster.
Yeah, no shit.
That's my hottest take on the subject.
My hottest take is they should stop making Stranger Things.
Well, yeah, I mean that's
this
option one.
The next season's the last.
Yeah, but you know there's gonna be a fucking
that's what they say.
spin-off, and they're not ending that shit.
They're doing
there's
that
gonna be
whole
Stranger
thing I was talking
things.
about, where the guys who make it are getting their own like streaming thing or whatever, and I'm like, I'll watch this last season and then I will be done with it. Like, I don't need a spin-off. I can already tell that whatever they're planning, I think, is probably going to make me really mad. So,
Stranger Thinger, and it's about a penis. I'd watch that.
It should be Stranger Things, and it should just be a remake of the movie Things, but just make it weirder. If that's possible.
Stranger Stings. And it's all of the weird versions of Sting throughout his wrestling career.
For no reason. It's like the musician Sting shows up in the Sting makeup.
Okay. I think I would like that.
There were a couple things, because since we haven't recorded in like 2 weeks, Kevin Smith announced there's probably going to be a Tusk 2, which I'm in. I
saw the I didn't read the article, but the headline made me think that he confirmed it.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong. Okay.
Which doesn't mean it's full. It's for sure going to happen.
Right,
but it's just something I think he's working on.
Yeah.
Nick Cage. There's a video going around of him at some like interview that teases his Renfield Dracula voice, and it's perfect. He starts explaining, he starts naming like 3 people he based it on, and it makes no sense until he actually does it, and then you're like, alright, this makes sense.
Is one of them,
whatever you're gonna say, it is not.
Chris Kattan?
No, it's like 3 weird, strange, old actor picks that you're just like, this doesn't make any sense. Then he does it, and you're like, never mind, this makes perfect sense. And then, did y'all see the Jamie Clayton Hellraiser pictures?
No, not the new ones.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you saw like the one of her as a Pinhead, though.
Oh, yeah.
That shit looks pretty sick.
Yeah, I'm in.
I've
got high confidence it's gonna rock.
I'm in, and also like being hesitant because it's number one, a Hellraiser fucking movie, which have not had a good track history, and then straight to Hulu doesn't usually give me much confidence either. But I'm holding out hope it'll be at least pretty watchable. Her as Pinhead looks pretty dope, at least.
Yeah.
I like David Bruckner a lot, so I think it'll be good at worst.
She looks like way better as Pinhead than the fucking dude they had before that replaced Doug Bradley.
Oh, yeah. That dude just had a weird head.
Yeah, he was a bad choice, just kind of face structure-wise for that character.
Squish head, more like it.
Got him. Alright. Katie, what'd you watch since the last time you recorded?
I can't remember if I talked about this. I don't even remember. Did I talk about having watched They?
I think so. If not, just do it again. Who cares?
Okay, I watched the I thought it was a Wes Craven movie, but maybe I'm wrong because this doesn't say
I think
Wes
it's like
Craven.
produced or Wes Craven presents or some
Presents
shit.
or something. From 2002, and I thought it was really terrible. I thought it was very stupid, and I hated it.
I feel like you did
Then
talk
I
about it
watched.
because that sounds like that exact review sounds very familiar.
Okay. And then I watched a movie called Face of Evil, which the poster of it looked really ridiculous, but it stars Tracy Gold, who was from Growing Pains, which is why I watched it. The movie is essentially like a single white female situation, and I actually really liked it. I don't know if it was a made-for-TV movie or what, but it was like basically the main character like kills people and like takes on their identity, and then she like has to pretend to go to college because she's like trying to be this one girl, and then she like falls in love with someone's like 60-year-old dad, and it's insane. So if you like that kind of movie, was great. Then I watched The Babysitter, starring Alicia Silverstone, and terrible, really bad. The whole movie is essentially just about how this entire town of dudes is like fantasizing about this teenage girl, and one of them is like an adult, and it's really
Didn't she
disgusting.
do like maybe I'm thinking, is it The Crush? I feel like she had like a weird period where like there was like a couple movies in a row of just like old dudes thirsting after teenage Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah, so she did Crush, because I rewatched Clueless. That's what started this. I love Clueless, so I rewatched that. She was in The Crush, which is actually the opposite, where she falls in love with where she falls in love with what's his face from Princess Bride, and I love that movie. And then she was in another one that was called True Crime with Ethan Hawke. No, Kevin Dillon. I think he looks like I think they're the same person.
What?
Where, like, again, she's like young and falls in love with a cop, and I think the cop falls in love with her. So yeah, there were a lot of movies in like the 90s where like it was very inappropriate kind of stuff. But anyways, I hated it. Like, I could not finish it. It was just terrible. And then I watched Clueless, which brought it all back. It was great. And then I watched a show on Netflix called The Stranger, from this year, that's like based off of a book series. It's like a British mystery thing. And surprisingly, I really liked it. I've been having a hard time with Netflix stuff, like, I feel like the past couple of years. And
bad.
yeah, but this was like pretty, I think it was like 6 episodes, but maybe they're like longer episodes or whatever, but I really liked it. I didn't really anticipate the twists that were in it, which is like not very common, so I like enjoyed it just because of that. Then the new season of Cobra Kai came out, so we've been watching that. And then also I was out of town, so I didn't watch anything on any of those days. So I think that's it.
All right, what about you, Kit?
All right, let's see. We're all going to the World's Fair. Shaft.
I've
Rocks.
been like, I kind of like every once in a while I'm like, I'm gonna give this a shot, and then like I don't know, like for some reason I don't. Like I feel like I gotta be in a very specific mindset to actually give that movie a shot.
Yeah, there's some good stuff in it, but just overall, I didn't care. It's like creepypasta kind of shit, and I'm a 33-year-old man. I don't fucking care.
It's kind of the gist. I feel like I look at it and I'm just like, I feel like there's probably like visually this will be interesting, but I feel like story wise I'm gonna be like, I don't give a shit about any of this.
Yeah, there's some creepy stuff for sure, but halfway through I was just like, I'm bored. But it held my interest enough to finish it, but I don't know. I think it's probably worth checking out.
What do you know what the last movie was that you actively were like, I'm not finishing this?
Yes. I tried to watch Tenet a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, this is fucking boring. I turned it off 40 minutes in.
I'm trying to think. Like I will like sit through almost anything that like.
If it's an hour and a half, I'll gut it out. But Tenet was 2.5 hours, so 45 minutes in, they're driving a fucking plane through like a mall, and I was still fucking bored. I was like, you made this boring. What the fuck? And David Washington's a fucking charisma void. I just had no interest. I'm like, whatever, I don't care. I'll watch something else for 3 hours that's good.
What else do you watch?
See, Shaft rules.
Original?
Yeah.
The remake's not terrible either with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, I need to watch that one. It's Sam Jackson and Christian Bale.
Yeah.
So it's like, right up my alley still. 3,000 Years of Longing, really good. Raiders of Atlantis rocks.
Is that the one that has like the bus versus helicopter like gun scene?
Yes, I think so.
That like I remember
it was late
being like, I feel like somebody died filming this.
God, the Tubi rip for it is insane because it looks like it's a VHS rip that someone zoomed in on. So like very clearly chunks of the screen are cut out. It'll be like a close up of a face, but like half of the face is off the screen.
I got all of that like little bundle of those movies. Severed put them all out. Those like Italian sort of post-apocalyptic whatever movies that came with, and watched them all at once, so they all kind of blurred together. I just remember there was specifically one that had like
that makes sense.
A bunch of dudes on a bus having a gun battle with like a helicopter flying after it. When I was like, there's no way one of these stuntmen didn't fucking kill themselves doing it. Tubi rules. I keep seeing pictures of people that'll post shit where they're just like, it'll be like blatantly like a screener that someone uploaded on there.
Yeah. Like a DVD menu. Like, what?
I love it.
It's like shaky cam from like a movie theater, like overseas. Like, what's happening here?
It rocks.
See, Rollerball. Rollerball was okay. Barbarian rocks. Sorry, Nathan.
It's just not for me.
Throwdown, really good. I recommend. It's like weird martial arts movie that's really about friendship, and it's mostly judo. So the dudes are like, let's fight, and it's just them throwing each other to the ground for like 10 minutes. It rules. It's so good. Bad Day at Black Rock, super good. Like anti-racist western from the 50s, which is insane to say.
I think that's one of the VHS tapes I got from that John Carpenter thing. I gotta double check.
Oh, no shit.
Because I saw you post that, and I was like, that sounds really familiar. Like, I think that might be one of the ones. Cause I got some like western that I feel like had like black in the title.
I had heard it was really good, and I watched it, and like it doesn't feel like a movie made in the 50s at all. It's super rad. Watched Buzzard. Buzzard is insane, real good. Fucking if you like watching shit about scumbags, perfect.
Who doesn't?
Scumbags delight. And then I watched I don't know if I'm gonna say this right. Salaam.
I don't know.
The new Shudder movie. It's Senegalese. It was pretty good.
Oh.
Don't
even think I've heard of it.
I know that's rare for a Shudder.
Well, I feel like Shudder,
film.
when they get like international stuff, is usually pretty good. It's like the American shit they get that I'm like, this sucks.
And that's why I wanted to give this one a chance. I was like, all right, it's a non-American Shudder film. Let's check it out.
I feel like
and it's cool. It's like it starts out as a western, and then it kind of becomes like From Dusk Till Dawnish, where creature shows up, and then it's everyone scramble for survival, and it's only like 80 minutes.
That's perfect runtime. I feel like the last Shudder thing that like came out that was like an international one that I was like kind of let down by was The Sadness. And that also was probably a lot due to
That's
like,
just the hype.
yeah, I was just like,
that.
it's the most brutal thing you've ever seen. I'm like, I've seen worse. I saw Ebola syndrome.
That man tearing that chicken in half over his
Yeah,
head.
like I've seen movies with real deaths in them and shit.
Real
like,
death.
all right, I watched a lot of shit because it's been like 2 weeks. Mostly a mix of just full franchise watches and then just like going through, slowly trying to work my way through physical media stuff I've bought. So I watched the Jack Weiss like New Orleans double feature thing Severin put out. So Crypt of Dark Secrets and Death Brings Roses, and didn't really care for either of them. Kind of just like boring 70s like detective proto slasher movies, I guess. Like, I don't know, one of them had like witches. Crypt of Dark Secrets was at least more watchable because it was just like witches in a swamp, but Death Brings Roses was pretty fucking boring. I watched the Vinegar Syndrome release of The Birds 2 Land's End, which I didn't expect much from the reviews, and actually was pretty pleasantly surprised. It was pretty watchable for a, Hitchcock sequel fucking 40-something years later. I watched Black Candles, the Spanish sex magic movie that made no sense but kind of rocked visually.
It's a Red Hot Chili Peppers album, right?
Blood, Sex, Candles, Magic.
Spanish. Yeah, Spanish magic.
I watched all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies except for the remake.
Hell yeah.
The franchise is fine. It's a lot of the stuff, like the first two are pretty fucking perfect. It kind of slightly goes downhill until like New Nightmare, but you're pretty much just there for puns and weird deaths. I finally watched Blood for Dracula. It's so good.
I love Blood for Dracula.
Udo Kier is the best Dracula.
I need the virgin.
It's so good. I can't wait to get to Flesh for Frankenstein because I've heard that one's just fucking bonkers.
I like Blood for Dracula better, but it's pretty close.
From what I've heard,
Blood for Frankenstein's pretty good.
I think Blood for Dracula I'm probably going to enjoy more as a movie, but from some of the stuff I've heard that's in Flesh for Frankenstein, I feel like I'm going to be like, this rocks just from a standpoint of what the fuck's happening.
Oh, yeah.
I watched Blue Ice, which is this hardcore film Vinegar Syndrome put out that is one of the most ambitious and probably well done, like, movies to just be, like, a straight-up porn with a plot. That's, like, it's... The only way I could explain it is, like, if David Lynch made a hardcore movie. It's fucking weird. Speaking of, I finally watched Blue Velvet. I don't know what it was about, but it's perfect. And then I watched all of the Saw movies. Just, what a fucking insane franchise. I mean, I fully still back first 3 and 6, just because 6 is about killing insurance people. Jigsaw still one of the worst movies I've ever seen, and Spiral was fine. I think Spiral, like, I think I enjoyed it more watching it right after Jigsaw than I probably would have if I had done, like, a full kind of franchise watch. I watched all the Friday the 13th movies. Pretty bad until you get to around Manhattan. That's when they really take off. That franchise is still pretty good. I really do not like the first Friday the 13th. I find it to be probably one of the worst ones. But they get fucking pretty sick around New Blood. New Blood, Manhattan, Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X. Pretty great run.
Goes to Hell's underrated.
It's so good.
I don't know why. I don't know why people dislike it.
It's so stupid, but in just such like
It's
a
fucking-
great way.
It's fucking puking his heart into other people, changing bodies.
Yum.
I watched Unearth's Blu-ray of Dr. Lamb, which is so good. I'd only really seen it on like a YouTube rip that was all fuzzy and terrible. Like Unearth did a fucking great job on cleaning it up. It looks so good. I then dove into Severin's Caligula sequel box set, and holy shit, I did not expect to see 2 movies with huge horse dicks in them, including one where a woman jerks off a horse. It was very upsetting. I was like,
Mr. Hands Part
I
2.
was not at all prepared. And I had listened to the fucking Severed podcast and they talked about them like back when they got released, and I was like, forgot all about it. I was like, oh no. I rewatched Burial Ground, like the Severin Blu-ray for it, which is a perfect zombie movie where it's just zombies. Like the whole movie is just like one long second act where just zombies are around, and like there's no plot. It's just zombies harassing a family with no forward progression. It kind of rules, and it's got a very blatant adult playing a child. I watched I rewatched Body Bags, but I listened to the commentary with John Carpenter and a bunch of the actors in it. And that movie still rocks. John Carpenter could never remember Sam Raimi's name and just kept calling him Spider-Man. This is very funny to me.
I love that.
I watched all the Phantasm movies, which I don't think I'd ever gotten to Ravager, and that movie is not good. Like it's the first cut, like the first 4 are fine. Like 1 and 2 are pretty great, and then 3 and 4 are okay, and Ravager's pretty bad. I watched the Vinegar Syndrome Cloak and Dagger release. Did you get that, Kit? It's... I don't know if either of you know what Cloak and Dagger is, like the movie from the 80s, but it's, I didn't know what it was, and I don't know, it was just part of the bundle that I got for Vinegar Syndrome, and it's like, it's got, like, the little kid from E.T. I think the same year E.T. was released was this movie. And it's about this kid who, like... I guess it was promoted when it came out as a kid's movie, and it's about this kid who sees, like, he's got this, like, sort of imaginary friend who is this spy, and he's, like, way into, like, D&D and kind of espionage shit and, like, video games, and he keeps seeing things that you can never really tell if it was real or not, and, like, he gets handed this Atari game called Cloak and Dagger that apparently has, like, government secrets on it, and then he's getting chased down by the people that want those secrets back. So there's numerous scenes of people firing guns at the little kid from E.T. and like it's fucking baffling that this was ever like made as like a kids movie, but it's pretty good, like totally watchable. The kid from E.T. in it is pretty great. I don't know, it's very baffling 80s quote unquote kids movie that I'd never heard of, and it kind of rules.
This definitely seems like something I would have watched, but I can't remember if I've seen it.
It's a movie that I'm like, I can't believe I'd never heard of until Vinegar Syndrome, like, re-released it.
Yeah.
I watched Cyber Vengeance, which is something Vinegar Syndrome put out, and it was very boring. Barbarian, which I did not enjoy. Death Wish 2, the Vinegar Syndrome release. That movie is,
oh my god.
Racist?
Not necessarily racist, but, like, man, the rape scene at the beginning of it is fucking brutal.
It's so bad.
I also watched Red to Kill, which is a Cat 3 movie that is about a guy that unfortunately rapes a bunch of people in a home for mentally challenged people, and it was
Ooh.
very upsetting. One of those movies where I'm like, this cinematography throughout this movie and shit is great. It is just like a movie I never fucking want to see again.
Could you put this in a different movie,
Oh,
please?
but like, it's shot so well, and like a lot of like the acting is great. But I was like, God, this plot is brutal. I watched all the Return of the Living Dead movies, which is fucking holy shit. Those last two, Brave to the Grave, is terrible, but props for the title.
I think I watched that one before I ever saw the original. I saw 3 and Rave to the Grave and whatever the other direct-to-sci-fi one was.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, 2 and 3 are fine. They're not good, but they're like... I
have a soft spot for 3.
I could do like a 1, 2, and 3 like triple feature, like no problem. 4 and 5 are fucking brutal because they're just like you said, I guess apparently sci-fi.
Oh yeah, legitimately, it was a big deal them airing that Saturday night.
I watched all the Omen movies, and all pretty good except the remake. The remake is still probably my least favorite horror remake I've ever seen. It's terrible. I finally watched Nobody, which is incredible. Bob Odenkirk should be an action star from now on. That movie, like, even after knowing all of like what that movie was about, I was still like taken aback at how good it was. It's so good. Him and Christopher Lloyd and RZA at the end, just perfect. I watched the Criterion Blu-ray Deep Cover, super good. And then I watched RoboCop 1, 2, 3 in the remake. And RoboCop 1, still the best movie ever made.
So at least there are 2 good movies in that franchise.
2 I totally back. 3 there's some like interesting things in, but it's without Peter Weller, it's hard.
Yeah.
And the remake is just abysmal. There's like some ideas in the remake and like stuff that I could like, I'm like, oh, this is like interesting, but it looks like shit. Like,
yeah, they didn't do anything with it.
Like they like at least like it's like slightly more upsetting when you see the like aftermath when he's just like a heart and lungs and a head or fucking whatever, but it's just unnecessary. And then Caitlin and I have been watching What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show, and it's so good. All right, shout outs, Katie.
My shout out is the new Holy Fawn album, Dimensional Bleed.
I've heard good things.
I feel like it's good. I still think Death Spells is my favorite, but this is their first album like since then, so it's good to have it.
What about you, Kit?
Well, I'm gonna do the old Krallis album, Dimensional Bleed Through.
Ooh.
Great, I gotta find something with bleed in the title.
You need a dimensional bleed of some kind.
The upcoming Blood Incantation album that you guys don't know about called Dimensional Bleed Gateways or some shit.
Yes. Perfect.
Fuck, what the fuck have I been listening to? Oh yeah. There is some band I'd never heard of that like just I got a Bandcamp notification for called Rotting in Dirt. That some like one of the labels I buy stuff from like put out that an album called I Am Eating My Shame by Rotting in Dirt. That's pretty good. Like it was the email was like for fans of, and it was like I don't know, like Every Time I Die and like Cult Leader and something else which I don't really hear, but like pretty good. Very like it's like a like a hardcore band if they were like way into black metal and kind of like some of the like super fast death metal kind of stuff. I don't know. It's pretty good, and it's free on Bandcamp if you want to go check it out. All right, next week. I'm gonna say Death Toilet.
Dun dun.
Finally.
The time is finally here.
Katie, just be glad all 4 of them aren't up, or we'd be doing a month of Death Toilets.
No more toilet.
I saw someone watch 2 on like on Instagram, and they were like, "This is actually pretty good." So now I got kind of hopes that it might actually be a good movie.
Who said that?
I don't know, some fucking random person we follow on Instagram. I forget who it was. I just saw.
If it was you.
No, it was not. I haven't watched any of them yet. I've been waiting to do them on the podcast. So.
No, I meant if it was somebody listening.
Oh.
I blame you.
I don't know. I'm interested. We're gonna see. I'm real mad that number 4,
so.
Brown Snakes on a Plane, isn't on there.
Ew.
Perfect fucking subtitle.
Terrible.
That's on Tubi if people want to watch Death Toilet. If it's at all watchable, we will do number 2 at some point.
Wow.
And then 3 and 4 if they ever show up on anything besides having to buy DVDs that I refuse to buy. Alright. If you would like to support us, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/IHopeYouSufferPodcast. Due to Katie having to go out of town for a week and stuff, we are pushing bonus episode for this month back to the 1st of October, and then we're gonna the goal is we're gonna try and do 1 bonus episode for each week in October to kind of make up for that, and also Halloween season and all that shit. So we're gonna do some stuff for October. So October 1st, we're gonna have our last of the patron picks, where the dudes from Porcelain Peak picked hosts, and the host for us to watch. So that'll be upcoming. You can buy merch at our storefront tier, including a new Soda Talk shirt.
Soda Talk.
Yeah.
Looks like the Saved by the Bell logo, pretty much. It rocks. I think. What's it all? Do you want to tell like what the shirts and stuff are, Katie?
So it's a tie-dye shirt with the logo on the front. Then there's also a baseball tee, and then there's also a koozie. Those are on our storefront tier. For some reason, it's all you. The only thing that comes up, I think, might be the baseball tee, which is stupid, but it's like a drop-down box in the baseball tee. So if you go to whichever one you see, the drop-down box is for the different items, and then they have different colors too. So, I did model it after the Saved by the Bell logo. So there it is, Soda Talk.
It's
if you want people to know that you talk about soda or want to talk about soda, then that shirt's for you.
People to think you for some reason listen to a podcast called I Hope You Suffer that only talks about soda. Actually, that would probably work too. You could it's I think storefrontier.com/IHopeYouSuffer, maybe podcast at the end. If not, there's links in our bio, and I think I usually put a link in the show notes and stuff, so you can find it. Leave us a rating on Spotify and a rating and review on iTunes. Tell us if you think Dr. Giggles would be a good physician for you. Tell us what all those fucking utensils he pulls out towards the end of the movie are for.
Yeah.
I got questions.
I know we have lots of doctors listening to this podcast.
Yes, we are the #1 doctor listened to podcast.
Doctor approved.
9 out of 10 doctors approve I Hope You Suffer.
There you go.
Follow us on Instagram at I Hope You Suffer Podcast. Follow Kit at Kitrification of Blood and Hidden Kitstery. Follow Katie at Werewolf Face, and go join Katie's Patreon at patreon.com/ Werewolf Face. You can listen to my other podcast, the NK Movie Club. I can't believe we've been doing this shit for 4 years.
I know.
It feels like it doesn't feel like it's been that long.
It doesn't to me either because I like vividly remember. Well, it is, but like I remember when you like texted me and you're like, "Hey, I'm about to have this like horror movie podcast with Kit," and I don't even think I knew who Kit was at the time because like obviously I still don't. I'm not convinced that it's not just like you doing another voice or something. But I like remember it. Like I remember where I was vividly, and it's like really strange to me to think of like how different literally how night and day everything is now 4 years later.
Yeah, it's made me watch a lot of movies I wish I never watched.
Yeah, same. It was one thing when I could just listen to you guys talk about them and be like, wow, glad I didn't have to watch that, but here we are.
And guess what?
Now you gotta watch Death Toilet.
Yeah.
Now you have to know that there are 4 movies called Death Toilet in the universe.
Yep.
All right. We'll be back next week with Death Toilet and maybe some more soda talk. I still have fucking those whatever marshmallow something Cokes in my refrigerator. I keep forgetting about.
Oh. Okay. I haven't seen those anywhere yet. So.
All right.
We'll see.
I hope. I don't know. I hope you suffer. But why? I got nothing for Dr. Giggles.
Bye.